And welcome to Chambers, Changes, and Conversations, the official podcast of Manatee County Government. It's your insider's look into what's happening in local government, from big picture policy, behind-the-scenes stories, and the voices of the people keeping you safe. It's brought to you by the Board of County Commissioners. I'm Communications Division Manager Casey Zempel, along with Director of Government Relations Stephanie Garrison. And for the first time, our special in-studio guest, should we do like a little drum roll before we announce who it is? Joining us today is Public Safety Director Jodie Fiske. Jodie, welcome into Chambers, Changes, and Conversations. Yeah. I'm absolutely horrible at remembering dates. I need reminders for pretty much my own birthday most years. One date that I'll never forget, and I'm sure you don't either, is June 1st. Jodie, being the Director of Public Safety, what is significant about June 1st?
So June 1st is the official start of hurricane season. So I think every Floridian marks their calendar for June 1st. Some look at that last day of school, but June 1 is when everyone starts tracking the tropics.
June 1st until when?
November 30th.
So I have a question for you, Jodie.
Mm-hmm.
What app should I use to track the weather? There's so many options. Which one from the Public Safety Director, storm expert, is the one that I should use?
I am always favorable to the National Hurricane Center. There is an app that is exclusive to tropical development. And so it will tell you, that you can pull up the entire ocean. It'll tell you tropical development possible in the next 7 days. But that is, when we get our weather briefings, when we're activated, it's coming from the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. So all of the graphics and everything that we put out are coming from those groups. They are a trusted source of information. So I always say go to the trusted sources. National Hurricane Center is the one that I look at.
I'm a big fan of, Tropical Tidbits. I love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a meteorologist, I want to say out of Hawaii or something like that.
There's so many sources out there. And at the end of the day, let's not forget that our meteorologists, they are predicting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no crystal ball. They're not telling you with certainty that this is happening. And I'd be concerned about the ones that are telling you 100% this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can tell you 100% there's going to be weather.
That's right.
I don't know what that weather's going to be.
100% chance of weather.
But there's going to be weather of some kind outside. So it's as long as it's a trusted source, and it's typically you get into a window where the models start to align. But when we're 14 days out, and there's a storm that wave is coming off the coast of Africa, for someone to tell me that, okay, get ready, you're at a level 1 because there's a hurricane coming. It's like, okay, well, maybe.
Yeah, and a lot of them are pulling from the same sources, the European model, GFS, they're all pulling from, it's just the hyperbole that is associated with their forecast. Between the end of hurricane season last year, one of the busiest on record for our area, and the start of hurricane season this year, you guys have been doing a lot behind the scenes, and that comes in the form of taking lessons learned and turning it into practical improvements. What have we done this year to make our response even better than it was last year?
So typically we will always do an after-action report, and we will connect with every single emergency support function, all of our cooperating agencies, and you always ask those questions. What went well? What didn't go well? What could maybe be improved upon? And you take those responses. And so, across the county, we've got our departments like Public Works that are clearing the canals still. They're listening to residents that are calling and saying, hey, there's this stream behind my house and it's full of tree branches and water can't flow. So, that department is out there clearing those. Utilities has been working really closely with our IT team in public safety to get us all of our lift station data and make sure that we have everything integrated into our systems. But I think the department that has probably been working the hardest, at least for public safety, outside of emergency management, is our GIS team. And I just think for anybody who's listening, I think they hear the county, we say a lot GIS. So that actually stands for Geographic Information System. It's a computer-based system, and it allows all of the users to store, analyze, visualize data, and we can take different layers of data and overlay them on top of each other onto one map or one dashboard. And that's super important for us. And so we've signed a contract with a group called Peregrine, and all of our GIS data across the county and all the departments, what Peregrine does is it allows us to compile the critical information that we need during a storm and put it into a dashboard for operational purposes.
So, but we're using Peregrine in a pretty innovative way, correct?
We are. Our emergency management division is the first in the nation to test the system the way that we are. We were able to utilize it last year for Helene and Milton. And so one of the things that we did was for our damage assessments, our field teams use a technology or a platform called Crisis Track. They go out, they examine a structure. Is it destroyed? Is it affected? That goes into Crisis Track. With Peregrine, however, we're able to integrate that data into a map. We're also able to integrate the data from the property appraiser's office, and we can get the dollar amount and the dollar value for that structure, which means that with our field teams doing the same amount of work that they have always done, we're now able to paint an accurate picture for the state and for the federal level to say, this is how much damage our county has taken, which resulted in us getting into the major declaration. We were in the first counties to do that, and we were the first county in the state to receive the expedited reimbursement for ongoing response operations. Everything is data driven. And so the better and the faster you get that data, the more effective you are in your response going into your recovery activities. And so us being able to gather data from lift stations that are impacted during landfall means we can target our damage assessments to go into the heaviest impacted areas, which means we get that data faster. We get it to FEMA faster to say, look, this is how many homes that we had that were destroyed. Meet our threshold and get that declaration, because that opens up the categories of assistance for the residents. And that's ultimately our goal.
Yeah, and if you've never been into the EOC, and you'll have an opportunity to do that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but if you've ever been in the Emergency Operations Center, you're in this giant room, and then surrounding you are these huge screens. And what we were talking about, there's actually a visual aspect to this, right? What kind of big decisions are we able to make, being able to see all that data in real time?
So one of our integrations this year is the integration of the CAD data from 911 calls. So we'll be utilizing AI technology with Peregrine to pull keywords from 911 calls. So if you dial 911 because your house is flooding, that would typically be dispatched if we're still able to run rescue at that time as a rescue. Well, you need to be rescued because your house is flooding. So in previous years, what has had to happen is that 911 call gets dispatched, emergency services calls, monitor the radio. They then come and tell us, hey, we have people that are flooding in this area. But that may not happen right away, depending on just how bad is that call. With this AI technology, that process is still in place, but we're pulling those keywords like flooding or water. And then it's going to map that in real time for us on a map. So not only do we know that, hey, this area is flooding, we know how many people have called 911. Wow. So if we're at the peak of impacts and rescue's not running, we have a map, we have a location. We're able to target our search and rescue operations from that, especially when we know that we have people that are in need of immediate rescue. So just that capability alone of being able to map that and track it and mark it off the map, and emergency services can watch it in real time because they're listening to the calls as they're dispatched. Well, there's multiple calls coming in at the same time. In some instances, those calls are just someone calling to say, my house is flooding, please come get me. And if we're not running rescue because the water is too strong and the surge is pushing trucks off the road, or the winds are too high and the trucks can't even get out, that call just would get logged and triaged at emergency services. But now we can target it. So we can say, hey, we've got 40 people on Anna Maria Island that called us because their house is flooded. This is their known location. We'll target our searches there, as opposed to the winds have died down, search teams go out and search.
And I guess very simplistically, you're taking all these huge data points from all different, from stream gauges to tides. You're culminating them all in one central location with the ultimate goal of what?
Being able to have a full operational picture and live time picture of what is happening. So when the surge, we had limited data coming in last year because it was very new. We did not have this system in place for Debbie. We actually signed the contract with them July 29th.
Wow.
And then August 5th is when Debbie made landfall. So by the time Helene rolled around, we had our pretty basic dashboards that were built with the data that we knew we could pull right away. So the river gauges, stream gauges, tidal gauges, Web EOC data for us. I mean, all of that is huge. So we were able to actually watch the tide rise, and we were getting minute by minute updates from the tidal gauges that were coming in. We knew exactly how high the tide was. We knew how strong the surge was as it was rolling in, and we were able to relay that information to emergency services like, hey, tide, surges up to 4.5 feet now, and it's been averaging about a rise of, a foot a minute. So just be advised and be careful out there. So having that real-time data, but it's that full operational picture of what's happening, but not relying on, hey, we know there's a weather gauge at the airport. What is that reading?
Right.
Or, hey, did somebody call and check and see, what the inflow outflow was? Let's call again and get another check. It's all going to be real time coming into us with a refresh rate of whatever we set.
And I remember looking at the lift stations last year
Mm-hmm.
and seeing those as well, I believe it was Milton made landfall, those just systematically going red, and you could actually see where landfall was being made
Mm-hmm.
as it was moving over by the lift stations going out. So even just that visual was incredibly powerful. And then obviously to see them all come back online again and turn green, it was very satisfying.
Well, but also to know, why did the lift station fail?
Right.
There's a difference between the power going out and having to go on generator versus the lift station and the generator are flooded, and we know that lift station is no longer functioning. So that type of information is really important to have because, again, we target our damage assessments that way. And this year, those assessments are going to be critical.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so incredible that here in a local government capacity, government being usually associated with being slow or antiquated, we have cutting edge technology. We're using AI. You're leading the way using this platform, the first, of its kind. And you've been asked to speak at major universities, Harvard, University of Virginia, to showcase this technology. I think it's just an incredible way that Manatee County is innovating and leading in this public safety space.
Well, I think it's important, especially because with the political climate being what it is and all of the discussion around FEMA, there's a lot of people, especially at national levels, that get a microphone and they say, FEMA's not ready. FEMA's not going to be there to respond. And it is so critical that our residents understand that all disasters are local.
That's
right.
They
start local, they end local. We have a very good working relationship with the state of Florida. I have full confidence that if I need a resource this year, I'm still going to get that resource. Director Guthrie spoke at the FEMA Advisory Council, and he said one of the things that makes Florida unique is that we don't run a response based on if we think we're going to get reimbursed for that resource. We are responsible for ourselves. And so our teams have worked really, really hard to see what can we do to be as self-sufficient as possible. By doing this, we are also cutting down on the cost associated with the disaster response, because if we are self-sufficient and we can do all of this stuff for ourselves, we only have to go to the state for those really big items that, local governments just aren't going to purchase. So it's everything that we're doing is meant to be more efficient for the resident, but it's also meant to help us as a profession in emergency management to really drive home the point. It's local. It starts local. It ends local. Never once have we seen a hurricane coming and said, well, we better call FEMA and get them on the ground right away, because that's not their function. It never has been. And so everything that we're doing with our local government, our local municipalities help us out with that. It's important and it needs to continue. And I would encourage all of our partners, and they are. Our surrounding counties are seeing what we're doing with Peregrine. They are trying to do the same thing. I mean, it would be an amazing world if we could get everybody on the same platform, because then we can all information share with each other.
Right.
Wow.
We can say to Hillsborough County, hey guys, we're seeing a huge rise in this river. Are you tracking the same thing? If you're on the same platform, it makes life a lot easier. For mission tracking, the system allows us to delineate it by emergency support function. So if I'm looking at our utilities department and they have 10 missions that are sitting there that need to get moving, I don't have to scroll through every single mission the county has put in. I can go straight to that support function and then push those specific missions to the state to say, hey, we need a status update on these.
I love it.
So it's taken a lot of work.
So you mentioned just even getting to see in person the EOC. Tell us about what's happening this Friday at our EOC in Manatee County.
So this Friday, June 6th, we have our Coffee and Questions. We invite all of our local residents to come and meet our team, see the building, see the room, get a feel for where your county staff are at. I think that it really depends on what you look at. I think when you watch TV, the emergency operations centers look amazing. They've got flashing lights and calming areas, and it's not like that. It's tables and chairs and computers and a lot of people putting in a lot of hours. But just to be able to see it and to ask your questions and to maybe, if you experienced flooding and you were surprised by it, hey, how are you tracking the flooding? Great. Let me show you what we're doing. Let me show you how we've improved this process. It's important. And I think it puts a face to the teams that are out there. And I think that's so important because, at the end of the day, you get a lot of people that have a lot of comments, and it's okay. I appreciate the comments. But I think that some of our county staff, they just get down and they take a lot of those comments to heart. So I think that being able to humanize that it's people, it is individuals.
It's your neighbors.
They are away from their families. They do their best to prepare. I try to prepare my family, but I'm out of the house a week before a storm is coming, and I'm usually home 3 weeks to 4 weeks after the storm left. It's important, but it allows for, I think, some of the more direct, hard questions to be asked right to our team and to allow our team the opportunity to answer them and speak to them. And even something as simple as what should I put in my bag to go to the shelter?
Yeah.
We can help you work through those questions.
That's right.
And
this
that's
Friday.
going on Friday at 9:00 at the Emergency Operations Center. And so the Emergency Operations Center is obviously, it's busy during hurricane season, busy on Friday for the coffee and questions, but it was busy last Friday too. And you touched a little bit on, some of the relationships that we build. One of the most important relationships that we build is with the media. And we had our annual media day last Friday where the media was able to come in, ask questions, familiarize themselves with our process. Why is that relationship with the media so vital during a major activation? Because
everything is local. So they, your local newscasters are going to provide you information about our local area. When, everybody, it's always fun, track Jim Cantori and see where he's going. And of course, it's great. But if he doesn't come here, then the National Weather Service isn't going to really focus on what we're doing because they're tracking their correspondent. Our folks are local, they stay local, and they maintain constant contact with us. I think last year I must have done a dozen interviews at like 1 and 2 in the morning with some of our local newscasters who were saying, hey, we're getting a lot of phone calls about this. Can we do a quick 15-minute update? We work really closely with them. They know our teams and they get familiar with our operations. So they are able to provide a pretty educated picture about what's going on. But whatever mechanism we can use to get the message out there, we're going to use it. And, part of the reason Matt Myers is our chief of emergency management, he is our incident commander during those incidents. And so I think it's important that people realize that he is managing the incident. He is in there, checking on our resources. He is working in operational briefings and logistics briefings and what do we need to do and where are we at with the shelters and arranging transportation and any other number of things. That's where he needs to be. And so I really, we have split a lot of the duties, especially because it does take time. I think there was one day pre-landfall where I was doing an interview after every single briefing that we had. But while I'm doing that, my incident commander is doing what he needs to do to manage the incident. And so that's really important. And it's important to have that delineation of responsibility. And I think that him and his team do an amazing job throughout the year of so many presentations. But when we are activated, he is managing the incident. So he is working so hard behind those scenes. Yeah, and he's done, 50 up until this point, and he's on pace for over 100 by the end of the year, these presentations? I think so. I think they just had like their 51st or something like that, yeah. That's incredible. Fantastic. And that's like neighborhood level, this is what you need to do to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. Yep.
So in addition to our relationship with the media, the school district is also an important relationship. Can you talk more about how that works with emergency management? So in Manatee County, all of our storm shelters are schools. And we rely on them as a partner that when we are sure a storm is coming and we're sure we're going to see impacts, that we go to them and say, we're opening a shelter. These are the shelters that we're opening. Get ready. And so they assist with staffing the shelters with school district staff. It's their janitorial staff that comes in. And they help track the census. They let us know how many people need rides, how many people are coming in. We have our special needs shelter, which is for our electric dependent folks in the county. It's important to have that relationship because you never want to be the county that's fighting with, your shelters. Like, please, 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 we need to open. We have to get this done. We just don't have that problem in this county. Our school district has always been a very, very good partner. And they know that they can come to us if they need help to supplement that staffing
or if we are looking at long-term impacts where we're going to have people in shelters, because the goal is not to be there for days. The goal is just for landfall, right? And then we want to get you out. We want to get you home because we got to get those schools back opened up so kids can try to get back to normal. They're a great partner with that.
Tell the story about the shelters and how many people were in them for Helene, and then what happened with Milton on the heels right after.
So, for Hurricane Helene, just pre-landfall, we had just over 1,000 people and I think 20-something pets that were in the shelters. While landfall was happening, that number increased by a couple thousand. A lot of people saw those impacts coming in and made a beeline for the shelters. And I'm so thankful that they all got there safely and that their pets made it with them. And then you had the rescues. We ran over 300 rescues on the island while the surge was coming in, and all of those folks got dropped off at the shelter. So I'll be honest, that's not really an unusual number. This was the first impact that Manatee County had seen in over 100 years. So it wasn't unexpected. Pre-landfall for Hurricane Milton, we had over 11,000 people in our shelters before landfall and over 1,500 pets.
People were not messing around.
It's a week and a half between impacts. And so in some cases, it was out of necessity. Their homes had been destroyed. They had nowhere else to go. But it is, for residents, when you're making a plan, your plan should not be to go to the shelter. That is your last option. You have no other place to go. You have time now. Call a friend. Maybe do your best to put some money aside to try to get a hotel room. Do what you need to do to be comfortable, because shelters are not comfortable environments. It's crowded. You're not guaranteed to have electricity. The only shelter that's guaranteed electricity is the special needs shelter for electric dependent residents. So, it's an opportunity to meet a lot of people in our shelters, but it is not a comfortable spot to be in.
It's a lifeboat, not a pleasure cruise. I think I heard Matt say that. And you talked about this a little bit. The number one question we get with 311, and I can't sing 311's praises enough in their role during activations. The number one question that they get, especially as the approach is coming, is what is my evacuation level? How do people find that? How do they know what flood zone they're in too?
All of this information, mymanatee.org/storm, all of the resident tools are located. It's a one-stop shop. So you go to the Know Your Level, you put your address in, and it will pinpoint your address and tell you what level you're in. And it's important to realize, when we are calling for evacuations, we are not doing that for fun. We are not doing that to test our capabilities. We are calling for evacuations because we see a life safety risk. So, it's very standard. Level A, Level B, voluntary, Level C. You hear all of these terms. But knowing your level ahead of time takes away some of the anxiety, because everyone also needs to keep in mind how much that traffic on the website picks up. Go to the website now, look it up. If you have a hard time remembering it, just put a Post-it on your fridge, A, B, C.
I got a cool magnet at the EOC that has my level on it, so I wrote it there.
Yep.
Yeah, mymanatee.org/storm. You can also find Alert Manatee. That's where you can sign up for alerts so we can send push notifications directly to your phone. And then there is Manatee Ready as well. Super handy, gives you tips, tricks, checklists of all the things that you should, from having batteries ready to testing generators, a complete checklist. Find it all, like you said, mymanatee.org/storm. Bookmark that page.
Yes. And as a storm is coming in, you'll see the most up-to-date information about that specific incident. So if you're looking for a way to stay up to date, that's it.
And Jodie, I just want to thank you for the public service. You are a leader in this community. You're making a difference. Your team makes a difference. And Matt Myers as well. These are our neighbors. These are regular people who are doing extraordinary things for the storm. So thank you in advance for all your preparation for this season.
Of course, I'm hoping to not need it.
Me too.
I tried to opt out of the storm season.
That's us knocking on wood if you're listening at home.
That's right.
Thank you for being accessible. I'll echo exactly what Stephanie said. You are probably the most accessible public safety director in the state of Florida. I don't think there's ever been a time that I've called you and the call has gone unanswered. That's unheard of. So thank you for being a great resource for us and being such a great communicator and breaking things down so our citizens understand and approaching it with such calm. That's the big deal. That's the big thing when you're inside the EOC, is having that calm voice, that calm presence that makes everybody know that everything's going to be okay.
I have my Red Bull. Everything, as long as I've got my Red Bull, everything is fine.
You would think it'd be the opposite, right? No, that's awesome. We thank you again. And then, Stephanie, if you want to hang out, we could have a little after party here because I think we've got a little bit more to talk about. Yeah,
we do.
Man, she is awesome. During our media day, she brought her family in. I can't remember. She had 2 girls and a boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then she brought her and her husband. That was so cool.
Hannah, Kyle, and Anna, I believe.
How can you not be impressed at what mommy does when
she's Wonder Woman?
She really is, and I can't wait for you to see it. I know you're newer to the county, but
I can wait.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
I can wait to see that because if I have to see that, that means bad things are happening, and
I've not done enough wood today too. Seriously, I have. No, she's terrific, and hopefully if you get to see her in action, it's we get activated and it's no big thing.
Yeah, I hope so too.
So, hey, what is going on? Boy, we got a busy week, right?
We sure do.
The OCC meeting tomorrow, and then on Thursday, that's a big day as well. What do we have happening?
We have our land use meeting as well, where we've been discussing. We've got normal land use meeting topics on the agenda. Everything's published online. Also discussing impact fees. So it's a big deal this week. We're concluding. We've got a couple more meetings this month before the board pauses for summer recess. The board is still very much working during recess, but we're not having any more public meetings until the very end of July. I believe it's the 28th.
That's right. And if you want to watch any of the meetings, we will always be broadcasting them live on Facebook. Just look up Manatee County Government, and you will be able to watch an ongoing, whether it be a regular meeting, a land use, or the upcoming impact fee meeting.
That's right. And on Tuesday evening at 6:30, the public meeting to comment about our recently approved action plan from the CDBG-DR grant. This, again, is that grant we've been talking about. It's the big kahuna of $252.7 million. The action plan is approving the categories of how the county will be spending and allocating its funding, not the actual projects yet.
That's right, the coming. Buckets of money.
The buckets of money. Are our buckets of money what the public wants to see? You can come in person and share your thoughts. You can also comment online. You can submit your comments via email. You can mail in comments. You can go to the library. But the most important thing, because we are an active community, we want your public participation. We want to hear from you. So please be sure to do that.
And you can get more information on that, on how to comment, mymanatee.org/lastingmanatee. And where is that meeting taking place tomorrow?
It is going to be at John Marble Recreation Center in Bradenton. It starts at 6:30. So we'd love for you to join us there and share us your thoughts.
Yeah, and north of the river, too. So we're giving 2 opportunities at this. One south of the river, John Marble, tomorrow. And then one north of the river, Eternity Temple Church in Palmetto. That's going on Thursday, June 12th at 6 o'clock. So, again, that's your opportunity to come out and make a comment on what you think of our draft action plan.
That's right.
And that is it for this episode of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations. I'd like to thank our guest, Jodie Fiske, Public Safety Director, and, of course, Stephanie Garrison. If you've got a topic that you would like us to tackle, let us know by commenting on this post from the county seat. And on behalf of the men and women doing work that matters for you, I'm Casey Zempel.
And Stephanie Garrison.
Make it a great day to live, work, and play
in Manatee County.